Good evening. My name is Shabreena, and I'd begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Today, we are here to talk about a very, very important topic in regards to our lovely dogs. I do know the saying which says, dog is the only one thing on earth that loves you more than he loves himself. And here we are discussing about a couple of things related to our lovely, friendly animals, our dogs. So I have a very special guest tonight on this show to discuss about the greyhounds, which is a very big thing in WA as well. So before we proceed further, I would like Alan to introduce himself. So welcome, Alan, to Radio Tarang.
Okay, thank you, Shabreena. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm quite excited about being given this opportunity to speak about greyhounds and our concerns with greyhound welfare.
Absolutely. And of course, Alan, you have been you've been playing a very important role in this organization with regards to Free the Hounds. So would you like to let our viewers know what sort of role do you play as a volunteer and what are we doing for working towards the greyhounds at this stage?
I became involved with greyhounds after I adopted my first greyhound, Monty, in 2016. Yep. And that's when I first became aware. At that time, it was just a small Facebook group, Free the Hounds. And it was just a small group of people who were concerned about the welfare of greyhounds involved in racing in WA. I volunteered at a few of their events, and then I was asked to become a committee member in 2018.
Yep.
Free the Hounds is an advocacy group. We're based in Western Australia. And it was launched in 2015. It's a registered non-profit organisation. It's incorporated in WA under the Associations Incorporation Act. So we're a dinkum organisation, and we're just deeply concerned about the welfare of greyhounds that are used and discarded by the racing industry.
Yes, and I think it's a very big question, about greyhounds. Me not being so knowledgeable on that grounds, but I would definitely want to gain that knowledge and share it with others because we are here to advocate for them and know a little bit more about what exactly is happening and what are the behind scenes basically the dogs basically go through. So can you explain me a little bit about how did you actually involve into all this? Of course, you joined the group, you became the committee member, but what was something which actually made you go into this organization to sort of advocate for them?
Yeah, it was just when you start to research the racing industry, there is so much sort of cruelty in there. A lot of the information that the industry puts out, it's sort of a little bit of misinformation. So through freedom of information questioning, through looking through their public documents, their annual reports from Racing and Wagering WA, you begin to realise that it's not, for a lot of these dogs, it's not been a very nice life for the first 2, 3, 4 years of their life being made to race.
Yep, and these sort of campaigns, I'm being in WA for almost over 9 years. I haven't come across such campaigns quite often in different states. So I don't know how WA has from your perspective, is WA one of the most active sort of organisation and group for them?
Yeah, Free the Hounds has been recognised as possibly the most active group, the welfare group in WA, and one of the big main ones across Australia.
That's amazing.
Well, one of the biggest welfare organisations is the Coalition for Protection of Greyhounds, based in the eastern states, and we give them information to publish on all their websites and socials.
Right. So obviously, when you had touched the topic about, greyhounds sort of having that sort of experience, which we were talking about, would you like to a little bit elaborate to our viewers what type of injuries in greyhound racing happens to, these dogs?
Yeah. In greyhound racing, there's three categories of injury, and this is based on what they call a stand down period. There's minor injuries where a dog is stood down for up to 14 days for the injury to repair, and these are usually little sprains, soreness in muscles, and that they're the minor injuries. Then you go to moderate injuries, which is more severe strains and major muscle tears, and these dogs are stood down for up to 59 days.
Wow.
The one that we're really concerned is the major injuries where a dog is stood down for up to 90 days, and that is usually because of a major fracture in, it's usually the right hock, because of the bends in the track, all the pressure goes onto that one leg. And these dogs are running at 65 kilometres an hour.
Wow.
So you can imagine the pressure going on one leg.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when they fall, it's major fractures.
Yeah. The other thing I also read when I was going through your website, I came across a couple of things in terms of inadequate nutrition, psychological and physical health concerns, or lack of socialization. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that? Because obviously, when you're working in a volunteer organization such as this, I think you are the best person who would be knowing what exactly goes behind, because everybody is out there doing all sort of, racing, and, we are enjoying every bit of it. But what they go through is something I would really want people to know, and, viewers to understand that why we are advocating for them. So is there anything you would like to touch base on in terms of, anything related to the health issues or concerns?
Yeah, well, one of the major concerns is that during their racing career, these dogs are kennelled like up to 20 hours a day. They're let out 4 hours a day. In one of the industry newspapers, they have comments from top trainers, and one of the trainers there, he comments, on what is a typical training regime.
Yep.
And it's 20 minutes on the treadmill.
Yep.
A gallop around the paddock, and that's it. So the dog is kennelled for the rest of this time. And it's interesting because greyhounds, even as pets, can be classed as very lazy because they just want to sleep. But that's what they've done for 22 hours a day, up to 22 hours a day.
So that's insufficient training, and then having them to run and do the races is absolutely, I completely agree with you. It's not very human. It's probably inhuman.
So there's minimum sort of interaction with people, definitely with other breeds of dogs. Like if they're kennelled, it's usually with other greyhounds.
Yeah.
So when they come out of the industry, there are issues with when you're rehoming a greyhound. Is they can be reactive to other dogs.
Yeah. They can be aggressive.
In the past, but thankfully in WA it doesn't occur that often now. But that used to be a reason to euthanize a dog if they considered it can't be rehomed because it's reactive to a small dog. It would be euthanized.
Right. I have friends who have adopted greyhounds after they have been taken off the race, and they have come across a lot of issues and injuries and things like that, which I completely agree with you. So that takes me to the next question. How many greyhounds are injured in a typical racing year? I do know, I've read a little bit about on the website, but it would be really good if you could let us know a little bit about the research and the paper-based stuff.
In a typical year, there can be up to 800 injuries.
Wow.
And like I said, that's within the three classes of minor, moderate, major. If you look at the Racing and Wagering 2021 annual report, there was 652 minor injuries. There was 159 moderate injuries and 78 major injuries. So really that's like 78 broken bones. So that's 800. And the issue we have with the injuries is how Racing and Wagering and Greyhounds WA actually report the injuries, because they constantly claim that there's only 0.2% injury rate.
Injury rate, yeah.
Where if you look at this year already, there's been 39 major fractures this year.
Wow, that is really high.
But what they do is they rate it against starters, so that's the number of starts per year. It gets quite technical, which it comes to 36,000. But there's only 1,600 registered race dogs. So 39 dogs that have fractured legs and will never race again. That's 2.3% of that 1,000 of the registered dogs.
Yes, absolutely.
So this 0.2, and unfortunately, that's the figure that's promoted in media, in ministerial statements. Is 0.2, and it's not. And if you look at the total injury list of 800, that's 50%.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. So they're not getting reported properly or investigated properly to actually say that this is where the injury rate actually lies, rather than giving them a different sort of output.
When they class it as starters, that's more of like the difference between an incident and an injury. So,
absolutely, I agree. So having said that, what happens to the injured dogs? If we talk about injured dogs, like you said, that most of them cannot race anymore. So what happens to the injured dog?
With the major fractures, the WA industry, they have what they call the full injury recovery scheme. So the owners hand their dogs over to racing and wagering. Racing and wagering pay the vet bills to get the fracture repaired. So that no cost to the owners. It's very, very cheap to own a racing greyhound, because you get so many payments from the government and the industry. So when they go into the recovery scheme, they're then put into kennels while their injury repairs, and then they go into a rehoming program, either through the industry Greyhounders Pets or the major volunteer group in WA Greyhound Adoptions. And then these dogs are rehomed, which is it creates another issue. Like my current dog, Indy, she was one that broke her leg. And now that injury is starting to get arthritic and bone growth, which is causing problems. So my last vet bill was $1,000. But I have to pay that. I can't go to racing and wagering and say, you damaged this dog, you should pay for that bill. So
that's really a poor state, because they don't, most of the dogs I think cannot get rehomed as well, because they have gone so many tears and injuries. And obviously, as you said, that you've been taking $1,000 as a bill for a vet. I don't think anybody as a person would try to adopt that dog, because they already know the history behind it. And that is also a very sad part of it, because they can't be rehomed into the society. So is greyhound racing very popular now that we are talking about it? And I do know that previously, a couple of past year, I've heard that it was a very big thing. But now these days, when you talk to people about this racing thing, I hardly happen to have a chat with anybody about a greyhound sort of racing. So I don't know whether the racing is really popular and well attended still.
No, we don't believe it is. The industry just recently, they put out a statement saying they have an attendance of 60,000 people a year.
Right. Wow. That is also huge.
And like I said earlier, one of the major tools we use is freedom of information. So, of course, we go back to the industry and say, can you provide that data? Can you break down the demographic of your attendees? And the response we got back was, we don't keep attendance figures, because about 7 years ago, entry to greyhound racing become free of charge. And since that day, they don't keep attendance figures. So we're not exactly sure
how many people are actually
where they get a figure of 60,000 people a year from.
Okay, so that's quite, you can't actually believe the figures at this stage, definitely.
So some of them have, like I said, a lot of it is in a way, the figures are probably correct, but it is manipulated to make it sound better than what it actually
absolutely.
is.
And as I said, that when you talk about greyhounds, it's a least touched topic unless you actually see somebody has homed the dog, and you then happen to talk like why this is happening or why that is happening, and that's how you come to know that this is the thing the dog has experienced throughout, and this is what he's going through. So I completely agree with you. But I think, having said that, say for example the greyhound racing gets banned. What will happen to those employed people in the racing?
The direct employees of racing and wagering, they're state government employees, so they could be moved into different areas within the state government. On the racing side, there's only 8 participants, just 8 that claim greyhound racing as their primary source of income and actually pay tax on winnings and all their bonuses.
And what about the state employees? So is there like their primary income as well, or is it just that the state is actually paying them for?
No, that'd be their primary income. So basically, in our Free the Hounds have got a petition out at the moment to phase out greyhound racing, and that's why we're saying phase it out over 2 years. And if those employees can't be put into another state government agency, the $21 million that is used for prize money at the moment, that can be used to retrain and reskill these people into doing something worthwhile. On the racing side, there's over 1,000 participants who are claiming racing as a hobby. So then all their prize winnings, all their bonuses, they're not paying tax on that. So that's actually going into their pockets, basically. So they've got other employment, and this is just a hobby to them.
And you know that that the government knows about this. And it's still been it's still running through, and people are still making it as a second income.
Well, racing, they don't have to report these incomes and that to the tax office. It's gets really strange and confusing. The more you look into it,
the more deeper you go, the more history you have,
the more stuff comes out.
So I also wanted to ask you, like, when you talk about these people who are actually sort of tending the race, or doing that gambling, you call it gambling for the races, what age group do you think people are from? Like any particular age group where you think that if we sort of be a part of it, where we create awareness, then we can actually stop that age group, or make them understand that why this is not something which we would like to go ahead. Do you think it's a younger age group, or is it like a middle-aged people?
The people who are attending at the moment tend to be sort of, say, mid-20s going up, and there's a core group of them who are quite old, and it's just a tradition to race greyhounds. But with Free the Hounds, we really want to target like high school students, and particularly males. Like our biggest following is a female following. So we sort of want to, and it tends to be the males who've got that male bravado. We're going to go to the races and gambling, and the gambling side is another major issue, because the Australian government, they put out statistics, and Australia is the worst country in the world for gambling loss, and the issues that problem gambling creates, like with relationships, mental health, and things like that. So it's a whole sphere of issues that really need addressing, because like you watch any TV channel and every advert break, there's get into gambling, get your mates into gambling.
I have seen people going to casino and sort of doing gambling, and I had friends who won like $7,000 as well, and then suddenly they go back and they lose everything. So completely I agree with you. Gambling is not the way to go. And I think the age group, what you are saying, to get targeted and everything, I think that's a good start, because if they are the people who are coming up,
if we can get into like high schools and young university students before they get out earning money and getting into that frame that racing and animal cruelty is okay. We're in 2022, we shouldn't be having this government-funded animal
Thing going
cruelty
on. Yeah,
existing.
absolutely. So apart from the injuries, what are some other issues which you would like to touch base on today with the viewers so that they can be a bit more, understanding what we are actually talking about and how important it is?
Yeah, well, like we just touched on the gambling side of things,
Yeah.
and like I said, that is a major that's what keeps racing going is the gambling.
Yeah.
The state government is looking at selling off the TABWA, so the funding that they currently put back into racing.
Yeah.
When the TAB gets sold to private enterprise, that funding will cut off. So then the state government will have to provide that funding. And we understand that there's talk about for the next 40 years that the state government, and that's I don't pay tax because I'm retired, but that's your tax money that's going to Greyhound racing. But also it's we don't believe it's an environment that children should be in. Like
absolutely.
Greyhounds WA and Racing and Wagering, they constantly promote racing as family entertainment, that they have kids entertainment to get kids there. But when you've got gambling, alcohol, you've got dogs getting killed and injured, is that a place for kids? And it's quite interesting because in early May at Cannington, a dog was euthanized following an injury at a race. On the Racing and Wagering website, and that's the sort of things that we check meticulously, they show the race replays, but that race isn't shown. It's just a scoreboard. It hasn't shown the race replay. So once again, we asked the question, why aren't you showing that replay? And the response was that it's against the guidelines of the Australian Communications and Media Authority. So it's either too graphic or there's something within that race.
Yeah.
But the Racing and Wagering website, that's accessed by the racing fraternity and adults. So if it's not suitable to be shown to adults, how can then they say, oh, but bring your kids along? And they can watch it happen there live. It doesn't make sense. It's not an environment.
Contradicting their own selves, where there's viewers' discretion, and then they still have the kids on. So these are really, really important issues, and I think we are here today to address those. And I believe, hopefully, through our talk and through the topics we've touched today, I think people should get some sort of information and educate their children as well at the same time to sort of telling them that how bad this is, and it shouldn't be like a tradition. Gambling is such a big thing, of course, and it's like more like a show off these days. So the other question I just wanted to ask, a couple of more questions before we wrap up our today's interview. I did go through your website and I was talking about some osteosarcoma. So would you like to elaborate a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, because as it stands now, greyhounds are pretty much owned by Racing and Wagering and Greyhounds WA.
Yeah.
They can only be bred to go into racing. So with the breeding of the dogs, they're just looking at like muscle and being bred for speed. They're not breeding out these genetic disorders and things, particularly osteosarcoma. My first dog, Monty, he developed osteosarcoma, and it's not nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when the day came that he was just in too much pain and I had to make that decision, it's probably the worst day of my life.
Yes.
So I can't understand how people involved in racing can just get rid of dogs all the time. It broke my heart. So with the breeding, they're not breeding osteosarcoma. And Panis, which is an eye condition, is quite common in greyhounds because in other breeds of dogs, they breed out these type of things, but in greyhounds, it's just being ignored. So hopefully if we can get rid of racing and start to breed these as pets, we can start to look at breeding out.
Yeah, I definitely want to ask you, I'm very inquisitive to know, why is it only Greyhound as a breed for these such races? Like, you've got so many breeds around. Is there any specific reason, or is just me who is very inquisitive to know that?
No, and that's the amazing thing, because like one of the common comments we get is, oh, if you get rid of racing, you get rid of the breed. Racing only started in America in the 1920s, and that's another interesting fact. Is in America, there's only 2 states now where greyhound racing happens. Okay. It's shutting down all over the place. But what they do in America, they stop the gambling on the animals. So that's killing off the industry. So
and that's the reason why we are sort of looking at sort of having the same situation here, in terms of we can just stop everything and let them live like other dogs usually live. The experience which they really need is not found or not got. So I can understand that. So with your e-petition, I have read through your website again. Would you like to elaborate a little bit about that? Because I think you are trying your best. The volunteers in this group are trying their best to actually get it signed so that we can pass this thing to the state, to the government, and then sort of get a law in place for them. So is there something specific you want to touch on it?
With our e-petition, it's being facilitated by Brad Pettit from the Greens Party. It's got support from most of the major political parties. The Labor Party, Animal Justice Party, and the Greens, and even the Legalised Cannabis Party. Sophia Miramon. Our president had a meeting with her yesterday, which was really, really exciting.
That's amazing.
And so basically, with this petition, it's the first time in WA that they've allowed electronic petitions. So you can go onto the Free the Hounds website, and you get the link on there, which you can do it electronically, or you can go to the state government website, look, search for e-petitions, and you'll find it on there. If you bump into us at one of our markets that we do have the old paper form. But we presented a petition to Parliament last year, and we had 11,500 signatures. And the state government come back and said, it's not really a true representation of the WA population. But they wouldn't clarify how many signatures we needed to be a true representation. So that's why we really, really need everybody's support. And thank you for your support today. And to log on to Free the Hounds.
Absolutely. I did. I wanted to actually go into it and have some more details from you. As I said, that it's really good to know when the information is shared across everyone. We understand at this stage that how important this issue is, and we want as many people possible to actually support to get this thing up and about. So before we wrap up, I just had a last question. So say somebody wants to contact and become a volunteer for this organization, what is the best way to actually apply for it?
If you want to become a volunteer with Free the Hounds, just go to our website, and there's a form on there, and just let us know that you're interested in becoming a volunteer. Like I said, we do markets regularly, so it's good to get people there, and it's particularly if you've got a greyhound, because once you take a greyhound to a market or an event, that's how you get the crowd in. They're such beautiful, affectionate animals. And when you look at the way they've been treated, you think, it's just not right. Not in
something
this day
needs to be done for it, and which you are doing. So absolutely, Alan, and honestly, from the bottom of my heart, and obviously the Radiothon channel, we really want to say thank you to you, because you chose this platform to sort of get connected with our viewers today and spread the awareness and the message. And thank you for sharing so much of information. It can be information overload sometimes, but I think it would be really, really good that if people can watch this and get a bit more information and try to sort of understand as to why we are advocating for greyhounds welfare. So thank you very much, Alan. And do you want to say anything before we go?
No, just thank you very much for this opportunity. And like you said, the information, like I've got bundles of paper here with we could be here till next week
Absolutely.
talking about the issues and things like that. But like I said, a lot of the information we use is public available if you want to look for it on Racing and Wagering Red's website. And look for their annual report, and it lays out injuries and issues in there. So.
Absolutely. So once again, I want to thank all the viewers who are watching our Radio Tarang's channel. And of course, thank you very much, Alan, once again, for coming and giving your time to share this and giving everybody an opportunity to get that information across. And Radio Tarang and ourselves would definitely try to help as much as we can and, possibly get this video up and about for everyone to watch so that they can understand. So I wish everybody a good evening and